Welcome to Pyro Spotlight, featuring Mag, the Alien Crusher. Mag is one of the best warframes in the entire game. With her high survivability of consistently replenishing her and her teammates' shields, in my opinion, she is the best warframe you could pick at the start of your game. She is one of the 3 warframes you can start the game with, and this is perfect. Enough about how much I like her. Let's get straight into her abilities. As we would start with any warframe, her passive is basically vacuum, but worse. That's it. Let's get on to the first ability. Her first ability is called Pull. All this does is it yanks enemies to a point right in front of you, whether you're in the air or on the ground. Her second ability is called Magnetize. This has 2 functions, but I'm only going to go over one, which is the tap cast or press cast, because in my opinion you're only ever going to be using that, and the hold cast is not really usable ever unless you specifically build for it. What the press cast for Magnetize does is it puts a bubble around an enemy. This bubble will then drag enemies around it to the bubble within a certain range listed on the ability information. Shooting into this bubble will increase the weapon damage of anything shot into it. The bubble will then absorb this damage, and once the duration expires, it will explode, adding 100% of the damage to the explosion on top of the damage it would do normally. Her third ability is Polarize. When Polarize is used, Mag will then send a pulse out away from her current location. When the pulse makes contact with a teammate or anything on your side, it will replenish shields back to 100%. The shield restoration will not flow into overshields, so just keep that in mind. On the other hand, enemies hit by the pulse will 1. Reduce their armor and shield value by a set amount, but this can be increased by increasing your ability strength, which can lead to full armor strips in one ability use. The second thing Magnetize does is once armor or shields have been removed from an enemy, the enemy will then drop a shard next to them. When the shard makes contact with enemies, it does primarily slash and puncture damage, and in a couple small cases it can be affected by arcanes and some helmet abilities or warframe abilities. Her fourth ability is Crush. This ability will lift enemies into the air, do damage, and restore shields. If shields are already maxed, it will go into overshields with this ability. Now then, let's talk augments. For those of you who don't know, an augment is a mod specifically tailored to a weapon or a warframe, in this case a warframe. For the warframe, it will focus on your abilities. That being said, not all warframes have 4 augments. Some have more, some have less. In Mag's case, she has 4. So let's get right into it. Mag's first augment is called Greedy Pull. What Greedy Pull does is it allows you to grab items and other pickups and basically pull them towards you to the same location you would pull enemies with the same ability. Mag's second augment is called Magnetize Discharge. This augment will give Magnetize an extra 45% ability range, meaning bigger bubbles. It will also disarm enemies upon explosion. What everyone uses this augment for is its self-detonation. Instead of having to wait for the duration to finish, you now blow up the bubbles yourself, meaning enemies are disarmed earlier and you just don't have to wait. Mag's third augment is called counterpulse. What counterpulse does is it jams enemy weapons, stopping them from shooting you, and regarding robotics, it will turn them off for just a couple of seconds. And last but not least, Mag's fourth augment is called Fracturing Crush. What this augment does is enemies that are hit by Crush, if they survive, they will have their armor stripped for a set duration. On top of this, they won't be able to move, but in my opinion, you're only using this for the armor strip because by the time you strip their armor, they're going to die, meaning they're not going to move. Now that little quick information dump of abilities and augments is over, let me give you some tips I have for Mag. First things first, to save you the headache, if you don't have any other means of armor strip, do not invest your strength in your third ability to armor strip. It's way too high when you could have done something else to counterbalance that issue, like going with more range so that your bubbles can grab more enemies and hold them in place and protect you whilst you're doing the damage. Third, I cannot stress this enough. Remember, your third ability restores shields back to their base maximum, and your fourth ability will give you overshield once you're at maximum shields. So how you're supposed to do it is use your third ability. Once you've got the shields back, use your fourth ability as long as there's enemies in your ability range so you can gain the overshield. And my last tip is, let's call this a self-contained tip, in the sense that if you want to do this, it's up to you. But what I would do, if you're going to helmet an ability, you change the third ability. Reason being, your first is good for decent crowd control. Your second is good for killing stuff. Your fourth is good for regaining shields, armor stripping with the augment, and crowd control. But your third, where it is good at restoring shields, your fourth ability will restore shields if you are low on shields anyway. So in my opinion, getting rid of the third ability is probably your best choice. But again, that's just my opinion. Whatever you do, let me know in the comments, and I might even give it a try. But that is where I will be ending this video. If you want a build or any tips, come and check me out on TikTok. And if you're here from TikTok looking for a full deep dive, well, this is the best you're gonna get for now. That is a problem for you. Let me know in the comments what other little things you would like to see, if I need to drop more information, and I will try my hardest to make sure it works for you. I've tried my hardest to make this Pyro spotlight as best as I possibly could, which is why it took so long. Anyway, you don't need to know that, but thank you for watching my Mag spotlight.